The Korean Mafia boss froze when his daughter spoke. Her first word was "Mama" to the black waitress. The sound of breaking glass came before the scream. It cracked through the restaurant like a whip, sharp and sudden, and for one suspended second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Lena felt it before she understood it. The vibration through the soles of her shoes, the cold rush of air brushing the back of her neck. Then everything collapsed into noise. A woman shrieked. Chairs scraped violently across the floor. Cutlery clattered, silver biting porcelain. Rain rushed in through the shattered window, carrying with it the metallic smell of the street and something darker, fear. Lena stood frozen behind table 12, a tray of half-finished drinks trembling in her hands. Her pulse hammered so loudly she wondered if anyone else could hear it. Instinct told her to crouch, to make herself small, to disappear the way she had learned to do long ago. But she didn't. Her eyes lifted, drawn toward the doorway where the glass had exploded inward. A man stood there. He hadn't flinched. Not when the window shattered. Not when people screamed. He stood perfectly still, rain dripping from the hem of his tailored black coat, shoulders squared, posture calm in a way that felt profoundly unnatural in the middle of chaos. He didn't look angry. He looked controlled. Lena's chest tightened. She knew that look. She'd seen it on men who didn't raise their voices because they never needed to. Men who expected the world to move out of their way, and usually did. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the room disappeared. The clatter, the shouting, the panic, all of it faded beneath the weight of his gaze. Dark eyes, sharp and assessing, slid over her face like he was memorizing it. Then a baby cried. The sound was thin and frightened, cutting clean through Lena's fear like a blade. She turned sharply toward the corner booth near the window, where a small carrier sat beside an untouched plate of food. The baby's face was red, her tiny fists clenched, her breath hitching as she cried. Lena didn't think. She set the tray down and crossed the room quickly, stepping over broken glass, ignoring the shouts behind her. She knelt and lifted the baby into her arms, instinctively turning her body so her back faced the door, shielding the small, trembling weight pressed against her chest. "It's okay," Lena whispered, voice low, steady. "I've got you." The baby's cry softened, then slowed. Small fingers latched onto Lena's uniform, like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Behind her, the restaurant went eerily quiet. "You," a man said. The voice was calm, measured, more dangerous than shouting could ever be. Lena turned slowly. The man had moved closer. Rainwater darkened his hair, slicked neatly back. His suit was immaculate despite the storm, expensive in a way that didn't beg to be noticed. A thin scar cut across his right eyebrow, subtle but unmistakable. Power clung to him. Not loud, not aggressive, just present. "Yes," Lena said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. His gaze dropped to the baby in her arms. "Give her to me." Lena adjusted her hold instead. Not defiant, protective. "She's scared." A flicker crossed his face. Surprise, maybe. Or irritation that someone had interrupted the natural order of things. "So am I," Lena added quietly. The baby pressed her face into Lena's chest, letting out a soft, broken sound. Her breathing evened, small and warm. For a long moment, the man didn't speak. Then the baby lifted her head, looked up at Lena with wide, searching eyes, and said a word she had never spoken before. "Mama." The word landed like a gunshot. The man froze. Lena felt it ripple through the room, the sudden shift, the sharp inhale from somewhere behind her. Even the baby seemed startled by the sound of her own voice. "I'm not," Lena started, then stopped. There was no sentence that could possibly explain what had just happened. The man took a step closer. "What did she say?" he asked. Lena swallowed. "She said, 'Mama.'" His throat worked. He stared at the child like she had just betrayed him and saved him at the same time. "She doesn't speak," he said quietly. "Doctors said she might not. Not for a long time." "I just held her," Lena replied. She was crying. Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then the man bowed his head slightly. "Just a fraction. What is your name?" "Lena." "Kang Jun Seo," he said. The name moved through the room like a current. Someone near the bar went pale. Lena didn't react. Names only mattered when you understood their weight. "Come with me," he said. It wasn't a request. Her stomach dropped. "Sir, she won't release you," he said, nodding toward the baby's tight grip. "And neither will I." Against every instinct that had kept her alive this long, Lena nodded. The car was silent except for the soft rhythm of rain against the windows. Lena sat in the back seat, the baby curled against her chest, warm and heavy with sleep. She kept her eyes on the city outside, watching neon lights smear into color, trying not to think about how fast everything had changed. "You handled her well," June Seo said from across the seat. "I work in a restaurant," Lena replied. "You learn how to read people. Children are harder," he said. She glanced at him then. His face was turned slightly toward the window, jaw tight, hands resting calmly on his knees. He looked young, late 20s, maybe, but there was an oldness to him, something carved deep into the way he held himself. "You have no one?" he asked. "No family nearby? Nothing tying you down?" Lena hesitated. "Bills." A faint huff of amusement. "Those can be handled." The building they arrived at didn't look like a home. It looked like a fortress pretending to be polite. Security was invisible but unmistakable. Inside, everything was quiet, polished, controlled. A woman approached immediately, her posture rigid with concern. "Sir, is Era?" "She's fine," June Seo said. "She stays." The woman's eyes flicked to Lena, then to the baby. "Sir, this isn't." "Mama," Era murmured in her sleep. The woman froze. June Seo closed his eyes. Lena slept lightly in the guest room that night, every sense on alert. The sheets smelled like something expensive and unfamiliar. She kept one ear tuned to the hallway, the other to the baby monitor beside her bed. Morning came quietly. Era cried until Lena held her. By afternoon, Lena was still there. "You may leave whenever you want," June Seo told her. "But I would like you to stay." "Because she said a word?" Lena asked. "Because she chose you," he replied. Lena looked down at the child in her arms, at the way Era smiled when she saw her. That was how the arrangement began. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself she was in control. She told herself she didn't notice the way June Seo watched her like he was learning something dangerous. She was wrong. That evening, as Lena walked Era through the garden, a stranger stepped out from behind a hedge and smiled at her. "You must be the waitress," he said. Lena's pulse spiked. Before she could respond, a hand clamped down on the man's shoulder. June Seo's voice was calm. "Deadly. You are standing too close." The man laughed nervously. "I was just curious." "If you speak to her again," June Seo said softly, "you will not speak at all." The man disappeared. Lena's hands were shaking, and for the first time, she understood something terrifying. This wasn't a coincidence. She hadn't been invited into a safe place. She had stepped into the center of a war, and June Seo intended to keep her there. Lena learned the house by sound before she learned it by sight. The quiet hum of security systems beneath the walls. The soft, synchronized footsteps of guards changing shifts. The way the floors creaked only near the eastern wing, like the building itself breathed differently there. She learned June Seo by silence. He was always present and never intrusive. He didn't hover when she fed Era. He didn't interrupt when Lena sang softly while rocking her to sleep. He watched from doorways, from the far end of rooms, like a man studying something sacred and unfamiliar. "You don't sleep much," Lena said one evening. June Seo looked up from the tablet at his hands. "Neither do you." She smiled faintly. "Occupational hazard." Era gurgled between them, chewing on a stuffed animal Lena had found in the nursery. Her eyes followed Lena everywhere. If Lena stepped away, even for a moment, the child stiffened, her mouth trembling before sound emerged. "She doesn't do that with anyone else," June Seo said quietly. Lena hesitated. "She's still afraid." "Of me?" "No," Lena said, surprised by her certainty. "Of being left." The words lingered. June Seo set the tablet aside. "She has never been without people," he said. "There are staff, nannies, doctors." "That's not the same," Lena replied. Children know when someone is staying because they're paid, and when someone stays because they want to. His gaze sharpened. And you? Lena met his eyes. I'm still deciding. That night, Jun-seo stood in the nursery long after Era fell asleep, watching Lena place the blanket just so, careful not to wake her. You could ask me to leave, Lena said without turning around. I could, he agreed. But you won't. No. She faced him then. Why? Jun-seo's jaw tightened. Because when she said that word, I realized how little of her world I truly occupy. The honesty in his voice startled her. Days turned into a rhythm Lena didn't expect to enjoy. Morning walks through the garden, afternoon naps, evenings filled with quiet routines that grounded something restless inside her. She learned Era's moods, her tiny preferences, the way she liked her bottle warmed just a little longer than necessary. She also learned what Jun-seo tried not to show, the faint tremor in his hands when Era was sick with a mild fever, the way he flinched at loud noises near her, the tension that never quite left his shoulders. One afternoon, Lena found him in the nursery, sitting on the floor, Era crawling clumsily toward him. He didn't move. She wants you, Lena said gently. I'm afraid I'll do it wrong. Lena crouched beside him. She doesn't need perfect. Era reached him, grasped his sleeve, and pulled herself upright. Jun-seo inhaled sharply as if bracing for impact. She won't break, Lena murmured. He hesitated, then lifted his hands, awkward but careful. Era laughed. The sound froze him. For a moment, the man who ruled an empire of shadows looked utterly undone. Later that night, Jun-seo poured Lena a glass of wine she didn't ask for. You could have refused, he said. To stay? Yes. She took a sip. So could you. You could have handed her to someone else. Someone safer. And yet, he said softly, here we are. They shared a look that felt too intimate, too honest. Lena broke it first. The first threat arrived disguised as courtesy. A gift basket appeared one morning, delivered with impeccable manners. Inside, among expensive fruit and silk-wrapped chocolates, was a single black rose. Lena found Jun-seo in his office. Someone sent this. His expression darkened instantly. Did you touch it? Just the card. He took it, reading the single line written in precise ink. Even kings bleed. He crushed the card in his fist. You need to leave, he said abruptly. Lena stiffened. You just said. Things have changed, he cut in. I won't have you caught in this. She crossed her arms. You don't get to decide that for me. His gaze snapped to hers. You don't understand. Then explain it to me, she said, voice shaking but steady. Don't just push me away because you're afraid. The word landed hard. Jun-seo exhaled slowly. I have enemies. Powerful ones. They're watching you now. And Era. His silence answered her. Lena's chest tightened. Running won't fix that. No, he admitted. But keeping you close might destroy you. Or, Lena said quietly, it might give her something real to hold on to. That night, Lena didn't sleep. She lay awake listening to the house, to the way it seemed to brace itself. She thought about leaving, about disappearing like she always had. But when Era cried softly in the early hours, Lena rose without hesitation. The attack came sooner than Lena expected. They were returning from the garden when the first shot rang out. Lena screamed, instinctively pulling Era against her as she ran. The sound of gunfire shattered the calm, echoing across the courtyard. Inside, someone shouted. Lena didn't follow the guards. She followed the map Jun-seo had shown her once, tracing the path in her mind. A hidden door. A narrow corridor. They almost made it. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her back violently. Lena spun, shielding Era with her body. Wrong place, sweetheart. A man sneered. Before she could scream again, the man was gone, ripped away with brutal force. Jun-seo stood there, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles. Are you hurt? He demanded. Lena shook her head, tears streaming freely now. She called for me. Era clung to her, sobbing. Mama. The word echoed, raw and terrified. Jun-seo closed his eyes, something breaking open behind them. Later, when the house was secure, when the echoes of violence had faded, June SEO sat across from Lena, stripped of his composure. "I cannot lose her," he said, "and I cannot lose you." Lena swallowed. "I'm not something you can own." "I know," he said immediately. "That's why I'm asking." She waited. "Stay," he said. "Not because you're afraid. Not because you're paid. But because you choose to." Lena looked at Era sleeping between them. "I'll stay," she said finally. "But you don't get to lock me out of the truth anymore." He nodded. "Agreed. And I won't disappear when it's hard." His voice softened. "I don't want you to." Something shifted then, an unspoken understanding settling between them. That night, Lena realized the truth she had been avoiding. She wasn't just protecting Era anymore. She was falling for the man who was learning how to be human. The house never fully slept after the attack. Even when the lights dimmed and footsteps softened, Lena could feel the tension humming beneath the walls, like a warning pulse. She became aware of exits without trying. Corners, reflections in glass, the way guards subtly repositioned themselves when she moved through a room. Fear changed shape when it stayed too long. It didn't scream anymore. It whispered. Lena found herself listening to it at night, lying awake while Era slept curled against her chest in the nursery armchair. The child's breath was warm and steady. Her fingers curled into Lena's shirt like an anchor. "You're safe," Lena whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was reassuring. June SEO stood in the doorway more often now. He never crossed the threshold unless invited. He simply watched, quiet, vigilant, restrained by something deeper than caution. One night, Lena finally spoke without looking up. "You don't trust yourself around her." June SEO stiffened. "I trust myself to protect her." "That's not the same," Lena said. He stepped inside slowly. "I don't know how to be gentle." Lena shifted Era slightly and stood. "Then learn." The words surprised them both. June SEO exhaled. "I was raised to survive, to dominate. There was no room for softness." "There is now," Lena replied. "Or she'll learn the same lesson you did." Era stirred, murmuring something unintelligible, and reached for him in her sleep. June SEO froze. "She does that when she feels safe," Lena said quietly. He hesitated, then knelt, carefully placing his hand over Era's back. The child sighed and settled. The sound broke something in him. Intimacy arrived in fragments. In the way June SEO brought Lena tea before she asked. In the way Lena began leaving her shoes by the door like she belonged there. In shared silences that no longer felt heavy. One evening, the power went out unexpectedly. The house plunged into darkness, emergency lights flickering to life moments later. Era startled awake, crying sharply. Lena scooped her up automatically. "It's okay, sweetheart." Before she could move, June SEO was there, his hand brushing hers in the dark. "She's frightened," he said unnecessarily. "So are you," Lena replied softly. The admission hung between them. When the lights returned, neither of them stepped away immediately. June SEO's hand remained on Lena's wrist, warm, steady. She could feel his pulse beneath his skin. "Lena," he said, voice low. She met his gaze. "Yes." He released her abruptly, stepping back like he'd crossed an invisible line. "I won't cross that boundary," he said. She understood what he meant, and why he'd said it. Later, alone, Lena pressed her palm to her chest, trying to calm the ache there. The first direct threat came in daylight. Lena was alone in the garden with Era when she noticed the car parked just beyond the gates. It hadn't been there before. The engine idled too quietly. The windows were too dark. Her instinct screamed. She lifted Era, turning back toward the house. The car door opened. "Lena Johnson," a voice called out calmly. "We just want to talk." She didn't answer. She ran. The man caught her near the steps, grabbing her arm hard enough to bruise. "Don't make this difficult." Lena twisted violently, shouting as loud as she could. Era began screaming. Before the man could react, another body slammed into him. June SEO. The impact was brutal, efficient. June SEO moved with terrifying precision, every strike measured, controlled. The man collapsed, unconscious, blood streaking his face. June SEO turned to Lena, eyes blazing. I told you to stay inside. I told you not to lie to me. Lena shot back, trembling. They know my name. His anger faltered, replaced by something raw. I tried to keep you out of this. You can't, she said. Not anymore. That night, Lena found a phone left on her pillow. Emergency line. June SEO explained quietly. Direct to me. Always. Her voice shook. You think I need saving? I think I need you alive, he replied. She looked up at him. Then trust me to stand with you. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded. Once, Era's bond with Lena deepened in ways that frightened them both. She cried for Lena when Lena wasn't in the room. She reached for Lena before anyone else. She spoke more now. Simple sounds, broken words, but Mama remained her constant. She will confuse people, June SEO said one afternoon. She's not confused, Lena replied. She's choosing. He watched his daughter carefully. And if she loses you? The question carried more weight than he intended. Lena answered honestly. Then it will hurt. Silence fell. Pain doesn't mean something was wrong, she added gently. It means it mattered. That night, June SEO stood on the balcony alone, staring at the city. Lena joined him, the air cool between them. You could leave, he said suddenly. Take the money. Start over. And you, she asked. I would survive. She turned to face him. That's not the same as living. He looked at her then, not as a protector or a threat, but as a man standing on the edge of something unfamiliar. I don't know how to love without destroying, he admitted. Lena stepped closer. Then let me show you what doesn't need to be destroyed. For a moment, he looked like he might kiss her. He didn't, but neither of them slept that night. The ambush came days later. Lena was driving with Era when a car cut them off violently. Tires screeched. Lena screamed, gripping the wheel as the impact jolted them sideways. Era cried hysterically. Men surrounded the car. Lena locked the doors, heart pounding. She pressed the emergency call button with shaking fingers. June SEO, she gasped. They have us. Stay calm. His voice came instantly. Help is coming. The men shattered the window. Lena screamed, shielding Era as glass rained down. Then gunfire erupted. Sirens wailed. The men fled. Minutes later, June SEO arrived, his face pale with fury and fear. He pulled Lena from the car, holding her tightly for the first time. You're safe, he said hoarsely. She clutched his jacket. I thought. I know, he whispered. I know. Era sobbed between them, clutching Lena's shirt. That night, June SEO stood before Lena, all defenses gone. I will end this, he said. No more warnings. No more restraint. And after? Lena asked quietly. He hesitated. After? I don't know. She stepped closer. After? You choose what kind of man you want Era to remember. The words struck deeper than any threat. He closed his eyes. Later, when the house fell silent again, June SEO found Lena, sitting alone in the nursery. I can't promise safety, he said. Only truth. That's enough, she replied. He knelt in front of her. If I ask you to stay now, it won't be fair. She cupped his face gently. Love rarely is. The word hung between them. Love. June SEO inhaled sharply, like he'd been wounded. Before he could speak, his phone rang. He answered, listening, his expression hardening. When he looked back at Lena, his voice was grave. They're coming, he said. Tonight. Lena's heart pounded. Era stirred in her sleep, whispering softly, Mama. June SEO stood, every inch the man he'd always been, but changed irrevocably. Stay here, he said. Lena rose to her feet. No. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, both of them knew. The final battle wouldn't just decide who survived. It would decide who they became. Night settled over the house, like a held breath. The city beyond the gates glittered, unaware, indifferent. Inside, the air felt charged, every corridor humming with quiet urgency. Lena moved through the nursery slowly, deliberately, her hands steady despite the storm raging beneath her ribs. Era slept curled against her chest, her small body warm and trusting. Lena brushed her thumb over the child's hair. memorizing the weight of her, the way she breathed. Whatever happens, Lena whispered, you're loved. Footsteps stopped at the doorway. Jun Seo stood there, dressed not in a suit this time, but in dark clothes that moved easily with his body. He looked younger somehow, leaner, sharper, and unbearably human. I told you to stay here, he said quietly. I know, Lena replied, and I'm telling you I won't. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. If they reach you. They won't, Lena said, because I won't let fear decide for me anymore. His jaw tightened. This is my world, my war. And she's my child too, Lena said softly, glancing down at Era. In every way that matters. The words landed hard. Jun Seo crossed the room in 2 strides. Say that again. She chose me, Lena said. And I chose her. I chose you. Not because you're powerful, but because you're trying. He stared at her like she'd just disarmed him. You don't know what you're risking, he said hoarsely. I do, Lena replied. I just decided it's worth it. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then alarms sounded. Not loud. Controlled. Deadly. Jun Seo turned instantly, every trace of softness vanishing. They breached the outer gate. Lena held Era tighter. What do I do? You trust me, he said. Then, after a breath, and I trust you. He handed her a small device. Panic trigger. If you're cornered, press it. No hesitation. She nodded. You come back. His eyes flicked to Era. I will. The house became a battlefield of shadows and movement. Lena followed the route Jun Seo had drilled into her, down the narrow corridor, past the hidden panel, into the reinforced safe room. She sealed the door just as footsteps thundered past outside. Era whimpered in her sleep. It's okay, Lena murmured, heart pounding. I'm here. Minutes passed. Or hours. Time lost meaning. Then the door shook. A voice came through the intercom, calm and mocking. Lena Johnson, you don't belong here. She stiffened. We only want what he stole, the voice continued. Hand over the child. Walk away. You live. Lena's hands trembled, but she didn't reach for the trigger. No, she said clearly. A pause. You think he'll choose you over his empire? Lena closed her eyes briefly, then answered. I think he already has. The door buckled inward. Lena pressed the trigger. Lights flared. Siren screamed. And Lena did something no one expected. She opened the second exit. She ran. The courtyard was chaos. Smoke. Shouts. The crack of gunfire echoing off stone. Lena ran hard. Era cradled against her, breath burning in her lungs. She didn't scream. She didn't freeze. She moved. A man stepped into her path, gun raised. Stop. No, Lena said, and slammed a stone planter into his knee with every ounce of strength she had. He went down screaming. Lena didn't look back. She reached the far gate just as Jun Seo appeared, blood on his sleeve, eyes wild with fear and fury. Lena, he shouted. She ran straight into him. He caught them both, pulling them tight, his breath shaking. You were supposed to hide. I did, she said, until hiding meant losing. Era woke, startled by the noise, and began to cry. Mama, she sobbed. The sound shattered what little restraint Jun Seo had left. He pressed his forehead to Lena's. I thought I'd lost you. You won't, she said. Not if you let me stand beside you. He kissed her then. Not softly, not carefully, but like a man who had nearly lost everything, and found it again in one heartbeat. The gunfire faded. The enemies fled or fell. When it was over, the silence felt unreal. Dawn came pale and quiet. The house stood scarred but standing. Guards moved with subdued efficiency. The danger had passed, not forever, but for now. Lena sat on the nursery floor, Era asleep in her lap, exhaustion finally crashing over her. Jun Seo knelt in front of her. You didn't run, he said. No, Lena replied. I chose. He swallowed. I spent my life believing love was a weakness, something that could be taken. He reached out, resting his hand over Era's small back. But she changed me, he said. And you finished the work. Lena met his eyes. You did this yourself. He shook his head. Not alone. He took a breath, steadying himself. Stay. Not as her caretaker. Not as a guest. Stay as my partner. Lena's voice wavered. In your world. In whatever world we build next, he said. I'll tear down anything that doesn't deserve you. She smiled through tears. You don't need to be a king anymore. He smiled back, small and real. Then teach me how to be human. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I already am. Months later, the house felt different. Lived in. Warm. Era ran through the halls now, her laughter echoing freely. Her words came slowly, carefully, but with intention. She called Junesio Appa. She called Lena Mama. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the three of them stood in the garden. Junesio watched Era chase butterflies, her joy uncomplicated and fierce. She chose you first, he said quietly. Lena smiled. She chose us. He slipped his hand into hers. I never knew peace could feel like this. It's fragile, Lena said, but it's real. He squeezed her hand. So are we. Era ran back toward them, arms outstretched. Mama. Appa. Junesio froze, just for a second. Then he laughed. A sound no one had ever heard from him before. Lena watched him lift his daughter, watched the man he had been fade into the man he was becoming. She had walked into a storm by accident. She stayed by choice. And love, Real love, had met her there. Thank you for listening to the Korean Mafia boss froze when his daughter spoke. Her first word was Mama to the black waitress. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart.